In the land of Israel, during a time of constant conflict, the armies of Israel and the Philistines faced each other across a wide valley. For days, the two sides stood in place, neither advancing nor retreating. The tension was heavy, and fear quietly spread through the ranks of Israel. Each morning and each evening, a giant warrior stepped forward from the Philistine camp. His name was Goliath, a soldier from Gath, towering over every man on the battlefield. He wore heavy armor made of bronze, carried a massive spear, and moved with absolute confidence. His voice echoed across the valley as he shouted challenges toward Israel. Goliath demanded a single champion to fight him. He mocked the Israelite army, their king, and their God. If Israel's champion defeated him, the Philistines would surrender. But if Goliath won, Israel would become their servants. His words were loud, deliberate, and meant to crush morale. The soldiers of Israel listened in silence. King Saul himself, tall and strong compared to other men, felt fear. No one dared to answer the challenge. Day after day, Goliath repeated his call, and day after day, no one stepped forward. Not far from the battlefield, in the town of Bethlehem, a young shepherd named David lived with his family. He was the youngest son of Jesse and spent most of his days caring for sheep. David was not a soldier. He had no armor, no military rank, and no battlefield experience. His strength came from long hours in the fields, protecting his flock from lions and bears. One day, Jesse asked David to take food to his 3 older brothers who were serving in Saul's army. David obeyed, leaving the sheep in the care of another shepherd and traveling toward the battlefield. When David arrived at the camp, he heard shouting. Curious, he moved closer and saw Goliath step forward once again. David listened as the giant mocked Israel and challenged them to fight. David was surprised by the reaction of the soldiers. He saw trained warriors retreat in fear. He heard whispers of terror and saw faces filled with doubt. David asked what would be given to the man who defeated Goliath, but more importantly, he questioned why no one had responded to the insult. His words reached the ears of his brothers, especially his oldest brother, Eliab. Eliab became angry and accused David of arrogance and curiosity. He told him to return to the sheep and stop interfering. David did not argue. He simply turned away and continued asking questions. Soon, word reached King Saul that a young shepherd was speaking confidently about defeating the giant. Saul ordered David to be brought before him. When David stood before the king, he did not boast or exaggerate. He spoke plainly. He said he was willing to fight Goliath. Saul looked at him carefully. David was young and had no armor. Saul explained that Goliath had been a warrior since his youth, while David was not even trained for battle. David answered calmly. He told Saul about the times he had protected his sheep. He described how he had faced lions and bears, striking them down when they attacked his flock. He explained that the same strength that had helped him before would help him now. Saul listened. He saw determination rather than fear in David's eyes. Finally, Saul agreed. He offered David his own armor, placing a helmet on his head and fastening a coat of armor over his body. David tried to walk but found the armor too heavy and unfamiliar. He removed it and handed it back. Instead, he chose what he knew best. He picked up his staff, selected 5 smooth stones from a nearby stream, and placed them in his shepherd's bag. In his hand, he carried a sling. As David walked toward the valley, Goliath saw him and laughed. The giant expected a seasoned warrior, not a young boy carrying a stick. He mocked David openly, insulting him and threatening to destroy him. David did not slow his steps. He spoke clearly, his voice steady. He told Goliath that while the giant came with sword and spear, he came in the name of the God of Israel. He said the battle would not be decided by weapons, but by strength beyond armor. Goliath responded with anger and moved forward, confident in his size and power. David ran toward the giant. As he moved, he reached into his bag, placed a stone into his sling, and began to swing it with precision. In one smooth motion, he released the stone. The stone struck Goliath in the forehead, the only unprotected part of his armor. The force was sudden and exact. Goliath stopped, staggered, and fell face down onto the ground. The valley fell silent. David ran forward, stood over the fallen giant, and took Goliath's sword. With a single motion, he ended the battle. The champion of the Philistines was defeated. When the Philistine army saw their warrior fall, fear spread through their ranks. They turned and fled. The army of Israel, seeing what had happened, shouted and charged forward, chasing the Philistines and securing victory. David returned to the camp holding Goliath's sword. Soldiers looked at him with astonishment. The same young shepherd who had arrived with food now stood as the hero of the battlefield. King Saul watched closely. He asked who David was, and David answered simply that he was the son of Jesse from Bethlehem. From that day on, David's life changed. His victory was spoken of throughout the land. Songs were sung and stories were told, but David himself remained the same shepherd at heart, calm, focused, and grounded. The battle in the valley ended not with armies clashing, but with one decisive moment. A challenge met with courage. Fear met with action. And a giant fell, not because of size or strength, but because the right moment met the right resolve. And so the story of David and Goliath passed from generation to generation, remembered as a turning point in the history of Israel, and as a moment when courage stepped forward while others stood still.